worst kind of fear is not the one hiding in the dark, it is the one that has been standing in the light the whole time. My name is Murad. I always believed isolation was freedom, no noise, no neighbors, no strangers, just silence. So I moved my wife Layla and my daughter Sarah into an old house far from the city. It was cheap, quiet, and surrounded by nothing but empty land. At first it felt perfect, then the silence started to feel wrong. Layla was the first to notice. Every morning before sunrise, she would wake up and go to the bathroom. She would return, pale, shaking slightly. She told me she could hear water running in the pipes, as if someone was showering right beside her. She said there was whispering too, soft, steady whispering, but every time she pulled back the curtain, the floor was dry. No water, no steam, just the faint smell of soap. I told her she was imagining things. Then Sarah began spending hours in her room laughing at nothing. When I asked her who she was talking to, she said she was playing with the girls who live here. She said they were upset because I entered the house without permission, she said. It belonged to them. That was the first time I felt something crack inside me. Soon I started hearing things. 2 chairs scraping across the kitchen floor in the middle of the night. The sound of forks and plates moving, slow footsteps. When everyone was asleep, every time I checked the kitchen, looked untouched. Except sometimes one chair would be slightly moved, like someone had just stood up. One evening I needed air. I walked to the small shop near the road. The old cashier stood behind the counter reading a newspaper. I asked him how much the sugar cost. He did not answer. I repeated myself. Loud at nothing. Then a young man walked into the shop and passed straight through me like I was nothing but cold. Ere he placed money on the counter, the old man smiled at him and said the total was £10. He saw him. He did not see me. I ran home. Layla and Sarah were standing in the living room. Layla was holding an old newspaper she found under the carpet. Our picture was printed across the front page. The headline spoke of a family who died in their sleep due to a gas leak in that house. 1 year ago, our names were listed. Before I could understand what was happening, we heard a key turning in the front door. A young couple walked inside carrying suitcases. The woman said the house felt heavy, like someone was still there. Her husband replied that nobody wanted the place after the accident, which is why it was so cheap. I turned to Layla and realized I could see the wall through her shoulder. I looked at my hands. They were fading into the air like smoke. Sarah was not playing with ghosts. She was playing with the living, and we were the ones who never left. I always thought the stories about the old abandoned house in the old part of town were just rumors, like kids trying to scare each other. But now I know the truth is way scarier than anything I've ever heard. It was a freezing winter night. The wind was howling between the old buildings, and the darkness swallowed everything around us. Me and my 3 friends decided to check out the house, just out of curiosity and a stupid dare. We walked up to the rusty gate and everything was so quiet, it was creepy. I could hear my heart beating and every step on the cracked floor made a loud echo. We went inside and it felt like we stepped into another world. Dust covered every corner. The torn curtains moved softly with the wind that sneaked through the broken windows. I immediately felt like we weren't alone, but I tried to tell myself it was all in my head. Then we started hearing it. Heavy footsteps coming from upstairs. I tried to laugh to ease the tension, but I couldn't. Something made every hair on my body stand up. I slowly moved toward the stairs, but it felt like something was holding me back, like the air itself didn't want me to go up. Then I saw a shadow at the end of the hallway. It wasn't a normal person. It was tall and terrifying, its face all twisted. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It came closer and I felt my body freeze, and my mind shut down for a moment. Then it vanished, like the ground swallowed it. I screamed and ran to the window, hoping to escape. But what I saw made me stop breathing. The backyard I knew wasn't there. The whole place was different, distorted like a living nightmare. I tried to scream again, but my voice sounded weak, like it was fading into the air. After what felt like forever, we found a side door and ran out. I felt relief for a moment, but it didn't last. There was something following us. A feeling like eyes watching something invisible, but real. Weeks later, I went back to see the house. It was completely burned to the ground. Everything was ashes. Like history itself was erased. But the side door we came out from was burned too, like it was proof that what happened wasn't just a dream or imagination. Since that night, I can't sleep well. Sometimes I hear soft footsteps behind me or see a shadow moving in the dark corners of my room. Every time I remember that night in that house, I feel like the shadow never left me, and that I am still part of something bigger, something dark waiting for us in the darkness, silently, patiently. Yasin was sitting on his small balcony, quietly drinking a cup of tea. The evening was calm. The only thing on his mind was the warmth of the glass between his hands and the soft clink of the spoon. It was an ordinary moment. He had no idea it would be his last normal one. Suddenly, everything disappeared. No balcony, no street, no light. He found himself surrounded by thick darkness, not like nighttime, but like falling into an endless void. He tried to move, but he couldn't. He tried to scream, but nothing came out. He was fully aware, but completely trapped inside his own body. Then he felt hands lifting him. They were not rough, not kind, just cold and neutral. Moments later, he felt water pouring over his body, then white cloth wrapping tightly around him. Terror slowly formed inside him. They were preparing him for burial. Whispers echoed nearby, heavy footsteps, muffled breathing. Then he was placed gently on cold ground. The air felt heavier, harder to breathe. That was when he sensed them. 3 dark figures standing in front of him. The first stepped forward. It was the shadow of the past. Memories flooded his mind. A friend he betrayed, harsh words he once said to his mother, and never apologized for an opportunity he avoided because he was afraid the shadow did not touch him, but the memories hurt enough. Then the second figure stepped closer. His chest tightened. It felt like he was breathing in cold dirt. This was the shadow of neglect. He saw moments when he should have spoken up but stayed silent. Times he watched injustice and did nothing. Promises he made and never kept. Every breath became harder. The third figure barely moved. It simply stood there. This was the shadow of truth. Suddenly, Yasin saw himself without excuses, without justification, selfish at times, cowardly at others, always convincing himself he had no choice. That was when he understood these were not angels, not demons. They were parts of him, the parts he had ignored his entire life. The pressure began to grow around him like walls, closing in like a grave, tightening from every direction. Time felt frozen. He tried to whisper a prayer, but no sound came out. Finally, he gave up. He closed his eyes. Everything went silent. Then suddenly, a loud metallic sound, voices clear. Real cold air hit his skin. He forced his eyes open. Bright white light burned his vision. He was lying inside a metal drawer, a morgue drawer. 2 men stood above him in medical uniforms. One of them checked his neck. There was a pause. Wait. There is still a pulse. The younger man stepped back. That is impossible. He was recorded dead. Yasin tried to speak. Only a weak gasp escaped. And in that moment, he understood. Death was not his punishment. Survival was.